Hi guys, Ryu here from Blender Bros, and in this video we're gonna be designing this sci-fi terminal. Now there's a history behind it, and if you wanna know how I came up with this design and also how you can improve your design skills and improve the way you think about design and how to actually come up with better models, then watch the video I posted last time, because that's exactly what I talk about in that video. We have so many amazing tools these days that we can leverage in order to become better and more creative. So go ahead and watch that video, but in this video we're going to be modeling this sci-fi terminal, so let's get started. Alright, so we're gonna be using hard ups and box cutter, obviously, because it's Tuesday and we are smart people, so we're working with add-ons. And by the way, if you don't know how to work with add-ons, or you don't know how to work in Blender in general and you're new to it, or you just started, then you should definitely grab our Hard Surface Accelerator course. This one is fantastic. It will teach you all the basics, everything you need to know about the tools, the menus, the whole workflow of a hard surface, but also how to create better designs. There is a whole section on principles of designs, which is really useful, and there's a massive section on rendering, so the whole process, including the tools, like I said, menu, creative process, modeling, and also presentation is explained. And this course is amazing. There's a very tight curriculum that teaches you everything you need to know and none of the fluff, which is really important because it's not going to be wasting your time. This course is also great fun. We have over 4,000 students and 4,000 results. You can see all of these results on our website under testimonials, so if you want to check that, go ahead. But if you want to grab the course or read more about the course, go ahead and click the link in the video description, and if you do, you're gonna get a nice discount for good luck. So check it out, click the link in the video description and grab the Hard Surface Accelerator course. It's fantastic. Now let's go back to our video and let's add a cube, and we're gonna start with a cube. I'm going to scale it on y-axis, and I'm trying to create this kind of a profile of this sci-fi monitor. So I'm gonna have a keyboard here and then the monitor. Now what we could do, we could split the monitor and keyboard from one another and create keyboard separately, but honestly I think I'm just gonna combine them and maybe create some cut in the middle. We will see. So let's go to N-gon and let's slice it here. So select that, and we're gonna slice it with N-gon using box cutter. This may be not the best angle here. Maybe something like this will be better. Let me see that. Is it deep enough? Is it deep enough? Maybe we need to run deeper. So ever scroll and move it a bit deeper. And, we need a bit more space for this keyboard. And I think we're good to go. Right, now we're going to apply this because I think it's good to go. So we're going to go, here and smart apply that. And we're going to now work with bevels. So first of all, I wanted to curve this, and this one can be curved, manually. Now, when you're beveling, you want to create either even number of segments or uneven number of edges, which is the same thing. You have 4 segments in here and 5 edges. Reason being is because you can remove the ones in between these supporting edges, and you can sort of half the resolution of the bevel in case, for example, in the future you're going to be converting this to a game asset and you want to lower the resolution. That's the easiest way to do it. So you can see here on the top we have segments 6, which means it's going to be 7 edges, and I think it's going to be okay. Could go with 9. So 8 segments and 9 edges. I think it's going to be fine. Kind of smooth, kind of a corner here. And obviously we're going to run a mirror, so Alt X and run a mirror. Now these edges, what I want to do is I want to actually run them with Mark. And Mark, what's going to do is going to add another bevel modifier on this edge here. So watch, if I control click on that, by the way, if you hover over one of these menus in hard ups, you'll see the tooltip. And by the way, if you want to get really proficient at using these add-ons, we just dropped a brand new course called Ultimate Guide to Hard Ups and Box Cutter, which is superb. 22 hours of content. It's really deep and it's divided into fantastic sections. There's a section on tools and menus, the ones you're going to be using most of the time. There's a modeling section where you're going to be modeling this amazing sci-fi truck from scratch. There's a huge rendering section which will teach you not just how to render, but how to frame, how to detail, how to texture, all that. And there's a huge section also on advanced tools, which will teach you how to adapt these add-ons to your personal workflow. So it's a really great course, and people love it. So anyway, if I'm going to hold control and click on Mark, you see that I'm going to be able to create a procedural bevel here, and on the bottom you see how many segments we are running. Let's run 6 segments. I don't think we need more here because the bevel here I want is kind of shallowish. And here the same, we're gonna run a mark here. So let's just clean that and run a mark here. There we go. And we're gonna run a little bit of a more supple bevel, so maybe 10 segments, you know, something like that here on the top. And I think with peachy, maybe we could adjust. Now see, the advantage of running bevels like this is that you can adjust it now, because if I go to bevel and click on bevel here, right, so Q and bevel, I can press Q and I can adjust between, you know, switch between these two bevels and keep adjusting them, you know, increase the number of segments, right, or do whatever the hell I want. It's just really brilliant. And then if I'm going to add a, you know, the kind of like a general bevel on top of this whole mesh, so I'm going to go to Q and control click on bevel. This is going to add a kind of a structural bevel, you know, this highlight bevel on top, and I can flip between all of them. So bevel, Q, I adjust this one, Q, I adjust this one, Q, I adjust this one. So you got 3 bevels you can control at the same time, which is brilliant. Now, what's the advantage of running bevels like this is that, for example, if I wanted to change the angle of the top of this face, right? Let's say, you know, I was running another edge here in the middle like this, and by the way, it's going to be a disaster, but what you're going to do is you need to go here to hard ups and remove this edge from all these you know, vertex groups, because these bevels run on vertex groups. And then, for example, if I'm going to go GX or GY and expand it here, you see that this bevel is flexible, right? So basically it's not baked bevel like this one, right? Because if I start moving this edge here, you know, I'm gonna get this nasty corner here. See, this bevel is actually dynamic because it's a live bevel, so I can readjust, you know, this edge here, right? And I can, you know, make this face, for example, curved. So I could, you know, add some segments here. Let's say 6 segments like this, right? And I'm gonna get this kind of like a slightly, you know, round face here for this monitor. But you see, these bevels gonna actually follow and adjust, right? So again, I can, you know, move this in and out, and these bevels gonna adjust with it, which is really cool. I could run a third one here, but it's gonna be an overkill. I think this is fine. Now, for our purposes, I don't think we need this kind of like a bulging effect here. This kind of a, you know, I want to keep it flat. I think it's gonna be cool. Now we also need bevels here in the back, so let's run, I say, you know, maybe 8 segments in here and over there, and we're good to go. And we have this mirrored peachy. Now, what I want to do is I want to run a chamfer on it. Now you see, we can select this edge here, and we can run a chamfer on this entire edge. Let's not make it too large. Let's make it kind of a smallish. But now, because we have these dynamic bevels, right, both of them, the dynamic, we could actually adjust the, you know, we could adjust dynamically this chamfer here. So for example, if I wanted to run this chamfer wide, but I wanted to make, you know, this side of things a bit more narrow, what I could do is I could actually run this to the top on the z-axis like that, right? You see that? And this bevel is going to adjust automatically to it. So if you wanted to adjust, you know, this thickness of this bevel at some point, you still can do this because of, you know, these dynamic bevels. But I think I might just run a chamfer, or honestly, maybe even a bevel here, you know, maybe I'm going to run like a structural bevel like this, you know, and let's run 6 segments, and I think it's gonna be okay. And then the weighted normals, obviously, to flex it, and I think it's going to create this kind of like a, you know, slightly supple-ish structure for this terminal, but we can do this later. So anyway, we got this basic shape, and you know, I think this is fine. I could just now go ahead and apply it. You know, if you're gonna have so many bevels running on your mesh, it's gonna be more difficult to play with it and run, you know, booleans and all that, because again, all these bevels run on the vertex groups, so you know, it could be troublesome. But I think we're fine now. We can just apply it and move on. So let's go here and smart apply this. Now this will apply all the bevels except for the last bevel. That's how smart apply works. So what we're gonna be left with is this structural bevel here, which is untouched. These two got applied, and now they are actually bevels being applied to that mesh, so you cannot adjust them. And I mean, you could still do that by using, you know, mesh machine. So if I'm going to remove this edge from the middle, I could grab this bevel here, go to Y, with mesh machine, and then I could just simply unbevel it, boom, right? So you're going to remove the bevel, and that's the only way to remove bevels like this in Blender without actually, you know, shifting the angles. Because you see, when I click on bevel, it's going to retain this perfect angle here, so it will not mess with the elevation of this face, and it's not going to distort, you know, this bevel here in the corner. So that's another add-on that you can work with. All the add-ons, by the way, the links are in the video description, you know, hard-ups, box cutter, and mesh machine, and obviously machine tools. These are add-ons I've been using since day one when I started Blender, and they're brilliant. They saved me so much time, it's crazy. We estimate that you can save about 8 times, you know, 800% of your time on using these add-ons when you're working in Blender. That's how efficient they are, because, you know, you get these 1-2 clicks operations that usually you need to repeat in Blender over and over again, and with these add-ons it's just a joke. So anyway, I think that's fine. Now what I want to do now is I want to create kind of like a cut here and sort of cut out the top of this monitor. So what we could do, we could kind of follow the angle of this keyboard elevation and cut here. We're going to be cutting through the bevel, which is going to be tricky, but I think we're going to be fine. And let's just, you know, run here like that, and then press B for bevel, and I think we're going to be good. Or we could actually run, maybe I'm going to run just the cut and bevel it later, and I'll tell you why. Because what I want to do, in fact, is I want to have different angles. That's how shift and shift it to live. And also I forgot to change it to, I want to shift it to slice. I want to have different angle here and here, because this angle here should be following the angle of, you know, of this bevel here on the top, but this one can be much tighter. So it could be something like this, and we can maybe run 6 segments. I think it's gonna be enough. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to adjust the height of this, you know, here, and maybe this will work. And then also let's run wireframe here so I can see where this cut is running through. Because you see, I don't want to get too close to one of these beveled edges, so I want to be somewhere in between. And you don't want to be here, because you're going to have a lot of congestion of edges, because remember, you're going to have this bevel and also the structural bevel running on your mesh, so you need to think about that. So you can easily see that by going to settings, and wireframe is going to show you wireframe. You can also see that when you're going to be in bevel mode, and you can press Z, and it's going to show you how the bevel is running, by the way. So, you know, that will do. And this is going to be kind of this, you know, top cut here, sort of like a, you know, cover for this terminal. And then we need some keyboard here. So let's run a keyboard here in the middle, like this. Very simple, right? And I'm just going to bevel this and, you know, nuke it in, and I'm going to press X, right? And then I'm going to grab this face, I'm going to control click on sharpen, it's kind of like a dirty multiply, and then insert it, and I'm going to extrude it, and I'm going to be running keys in here. So that will do. And then the monitor, now the monitor, I will cut here. And in fact, you know what we could do? Let's just mirror this, and I'm going to apply the mirror here. So operations multiply. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these 2 edges, right? And I'm going to actually go with Q and curve extract, control click on curve extract, which will rip these edges and sort of, you know, create a separate object. And then Alt A with machine tools and align to left. If a line doesn't work for you, it means you need to enable it in preferences. I'm going to extend this like that, so I'm gonna have the same size, you know, of F here and F here. I'm gonna have the same width, I'm sorry, of the monitor versus the, you know, it's gonna align simply with the width of the keyboard. It's gonna be a more cohesive design, you know what I mean? So select everything here and press F, and then we're going to, you know, solidify it this way, and I'm gonna simply create a cutter. And what we could do, we could, well, we can apply this so sharpen, and then let's just run a bevel here like this, right? Let's maybe run, actually, you know what, we could run this a bit tighter like that. And so we're going to mirror this to the other side, and then shift control click on sharpen. Now what it will do, you see these edges here on the sharp edges, they were pushed outside after beveling, and they're gonna create this kind of nasty highlight, right? So what you want to do is you want to remove them by simply recalculating sharpens, and you can do that by Control Shift click on sharpen, which is going to remove all the sharp edges and apply them only to sharp edges, which is a really fantastic tool with hard ups. And click here, and we're going to go to booleans and slash it. And then, in fact, you know what we could do instead? We could actually boolean this. So hang on a second, difference. And let's move this cutter in here. And I'm going to grab this face, and now watch this, Alt Z. Now, I'm going to be using tool from Machine Tools, Deus Ex, it's called Edge Constraint. You also need to enable, and if I press Alt R and hold Control, I can rotate just this face, because you see with Vanilla Blender, if you just press R, it's going to distort this shape. I don't want to distort this shape. I want to just, you know, shear the face. So Alt R and hold Control and snap. You can do it with shear in Blender, but it's you know, it's a sheer nuisance. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm going to do that, and let's just actually push it in, right? So somewhere here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a chamfer on it. So let's apply that. So operations multiply. And what we're going to do here is we're going to run a chamfer on this. Where is it? Let me just clean that, bring it to local view. There we go. And also remove that sharp. And we have a double edge in here. Why am I having the... Oh, I see the problem. Okay. The problem is that we use the cutter with a boolean. So watch this. This cutter has actually a boolean running on it, so we need to remove it. I forgot about that. Never cut stuff with booleans because you're going to have a problem. So that's what we did wrong. Right, so now we can apply this. So again, it's operations multiply. Good. All right, so now what we're going to do is click here to select this edge. I think it's still too deep, so I'm going to GUI this, move it a little bit closer. And then I'm going to bevel this, but you see that bevel, it's going to clamp here. You see that it's overshooting, and if I press C to clamp it, my chamfer or bevel will not go to the end of this cut. So what I can do is I can select these two edges, go to Y and go to unfuck, and I can do that with Mesh Machine, and this is going to help me to, you know, run this a little bit differently. Alt X to mirror to the other side with a Mesh Machine. Click Alt click again, and then when I'm going to bevel this and press C and chamfer it, you see I can go to the edge here and, you know, kind of almost still didn't work the way I wanted to, because I wanted to go to the edge. Maybe the clamping in Blender doesn't really catch that, but you know, we can always combine this using machine tools. And now this obviously is going to be a mess, so we can use another tool from Blender called Loop Tools. And in order to use Loop Tools, you gotta enable it in the extensions here. So go to Preferences and enable extension called Loop Tools. That comes with Blender, and you want to use the tool called Space, and Space will space these words nice and nice and evenly, and clean up this mess. So go to Loop Tools and Space. And then we need to clean this mess in here because it is a little bit messy. Now, this is a tricky situation because you got two different types of bevels here. You see, you got bevel here, and you need to kind of, you know, bring them together. And I would suggest not moving this one, because if you move this one, you're gonna get you're gonna have a problem. So what I would suggest is simply, you know, running it to this vert here. Let me just turn off the bevel so you can see better. Run this here, but then we're gonna have to combine this or one of these with this. What you could do is shift one and combine them in the middle, but you're gonna shift a bit the shading here. But I think it should be fine. It's, you know, barely visible. So let's combine these here like that, and then we're gonna run it to the other side like this, and then Shift Control click on sharpen and Bob your uncle, and then run and then turn on the bevel here. And you know, you got this kind of a cool situation. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab this entire thing here and Q and Shift Curve Extract to solidify it inwards, and this is gonna create this sort of like a weird outlet, but we can slice it using, you know, using n-gons like this. So just you know, run an n-gon here like that, There we go, that's better. So you see that's going to cut this and sort of create this kind of a nice kind of like an inner part. This may be a little bit too thick, so maybe we can grab that bit here and go to modifier solidify and solidify it a bit less. So do something like this. And I think it's going to be cool. Now we obviously need a screen, so we can grab that and shift curve extract, move it outside here like this, and control sharpen this, so we can have a screen, and we can move it, slightly inwards. So grab this face, go to global, and create a face based orientation or transformation. So GZ, and I can see I can move it on this angle. I can move it in and kind of fit it in really nicely there. And I'm gonna have a monitor. There you go. Right, cool. Now the bevel here is gone for some reason. You see that? There we go, that's better. Let me create a larger bevel here. We want a smooth bevel, on these, right? There we go. Cool. So now we need to save it, because if it crashes, it's gonna be a bad day at the Chinese restaurant. Let me just save it. So terminal, I just call terminal 1, whatever, and save it. And I'm gonna obviously run power save because reasons. So power save, cool. So now what we need is we obviously need some keyboard here. What we could do is just draw a key. So deselect everything, and we could just draw it here with hard ups like that, or box cutter, whatever, and then press B for bevel, and you can create a shape. If everything is deselected, just space, and we can bring it somewhere here. Obviously rotate it holding control, so it matches the angle, and place it somewhere here, and then we can duplicate it on I just reset the axis here to global, GX, move it in here, and then we're going to scale it on X, and we're going to apply the scale to fix the bevel, right? And then we can array this, so Q, and array this, and I don't know how many, but maybe that many, and then we can move this one all the way here as well. And obviously we're gonna need a bevel. So what you could do also, you could let's now add another bevel. So control click on this and add the bevel, make it supple. Key is supposed to be supple, so bevel here too, press 1 and boom. And then we could technically borrow this one, so Alt D and move it in here all the way, right? And they need to be in the middle, and then we could borrow this entire thing, and we could well, we can't probably copy this array. Actually, it's gonna work, it's fine. So what we could do technically, it's array it down. So Q array, and then press A for the secondary array X, and you can move it on these axes here. Let's say create maybe one more row here. Let me move these keys a little bit down, somewhere here. Hang on, we just select everything and just move them somewhere here, okay? So they're gonna be, well, maybe not that deep, somewhere here, right? Something like that. And then we're gonna grab, we could grab this key, and we could just simply, Alt D and move it somewhere here. Again, you could use this custom orientation to align them perfectly, but I can't be bothered. And then we're just gonna simply, well, we're gonna use it now. So let's go with the face again, and then GZ, and move it down here. And this one is actually an instance, we can't do that. So Shift D, G, and Z, move it in here. Let's align it properly this time. So, here, and then grab this face and expand it. If it's an instance, it will not let you do it, because it's going to, copy the key basically, right? And then we can go with Alt D and G, and where is the Y-axis here? Move it to this side, and then what we can do is we can create another one here, right? So Shift D and here to the middle, and we're gonna grab this face, GZ, make it smaller, and then we're going to make it wider, right? So SY, make it wider, right? And then apply scale, boom, right? There's your key. So, move it somewhere here in the middle, whatever, and there's your keyboard, right? And there you go, easy peasy. And now we need some some kind of a top here, right? So what I was thinking is we don't want this cut to, you know, take the whole top here, because you want some empty space. So we're gonna cut this here, use X, and then make sure obviously it's in the middle. So mirror that and mirror this. And then we're gonna create some holes. Yeah, so this bevel here could be a little bit less crazy. So we're gonna, you know, make it less thick. And also, let me just apply this. Click, Alt click here, and I'm gonna create a chamfer here on top. So it's going to kind of, you know, stand out a little bit more. Same here, so we can go here with Smart Apply and then click, Alt click here and create another chamfer. So you're gonna get this nice sort of a separation in there, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. And now we need some holes. Now we could do this with, you know, with decals, but you could also do it with box cutter. So just create a cut here like that. Press V for array, and maybe create that many, right? And then shift click, and then we're gonna go to Q array A to create a secondary array, you know, and array them this way, and you know, maybe create you know, vents going this way, right? So something like this. Okay, cool. And now if you want to have it on one side, you can. I'm gonna have it on both. I think it looks cool. And you know, we could have some kind of like a, you know, clip here that's gonna be allowing us to you know, to kind of press it and unlock it or whatever, right? So you could have some clip here like that. Maybe you could go with wedge cut, so W for wedge cut and hold control for a perfect wedge cut and do something like this, and you know, Bob's your uncle. We could do similar stuff here on the side. You could even grab this wedge cut, so F scroll and then Q array this, move it in here, and boom. And obviously you need to wait the normals, otherwise it will not work. And then we can think of something on the bottom, right? So on the bottom, I mean, you know, we could actually bevel this. It's going to be much smoother on the bottom like that. And we could cut it, you know, so we could cut it with, we could go with an end gun actually. And, you know, let's follow the angle here, right? So you wanna maintain the consistency of angle, sort of like a cohesion of angle. And the back could be actually straight, or, you know, or angle, doesn't really matter. So let's just cut that, and we're going to drop this down. So F scroll and drop this down. Let's just turn off this. There we go, and wait the normals obviously. And then we're going to run another cut here, which is going to separate the bottom like that, okay? So you got clearly the separation here of the bottom, and, you know, and Bob's your uncle. So now here we're gonna grab this cutter and run a bevel here, obviously, because, you know, again, needs to be consistent with the whole design. Now on the side here, what we could do, we could create this kind of like a, you know, cartridge system, whatever. So we could just grab a cut here, or we could do it in the back, maybe somewhere here like that, you know, and cut it in, right? And I'm gonna shift click, and then I'm gonna go to Q settings and shift click on sheet solid, which is gonna give me this shape. So it's gonna duplicate the cutter and convert it to a solid shape, which is what I want, because now I can, you know, create kind of like a cartridge sort of a, you know, element here. Just sharpen this and reduce the bevel size, obviously, because it's insane. But that will not work. I need to apply the bevel first. So let me just run a smart apply, because we'll lose this structural bevel here. So you see we're gonna lose this bevel here, right? So let's apply this, okay? And let's run a regular bevel on top of that. And you know, we could create some sort of like a, you know, cartridge situation in here like that. Apply this, grab this one, and, you know, create kind of like a sort of like a something you grab and pull, right? So now this is gonna get mirrored, which is something I don't want. So what you can do is you can move that that boolean that's actually cutting through this one, right? You can move it underneath the mirror, so this will not get mirrored to the other side, which is gonna mess up shading. But again, this can be sorted by, let me see that, where's the normals here? It needs to be on the bottom. There we go. See, order of modifier is important, so that will work. Let me just actually apply this. So operation smart apply is going to be easier to work on that. Add the bevel to it. Hey, hang on a second, do we actually have a bevel on this? Let me see this. Yeah, let me just apply that smart apply. This is going to create this bug again, you see, which adds bevel, and it's very dangerous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bevel, which is here, and I'm going to apply that, and then I'm going to apply the bevel on top of it. You need to be careful sometimes when you're working with hard ups, because, you know, after they introduced the new auto smooth, you know, things are a little bit wonky with the bevels, so you gotta be careful. You see, like, weighted normal should be always underneath here. This is why the shading is messed up, right? So it's not sorting properly, which is a problem. So anyway, well, I don't need this cut, but yeah, so, you know, here what we could do is we could create kind of like a, you know, maybe like a cut here through that, and, you know, you basically grab that and you pull it out or something, and, you know, on top here we could have some kind of a decal or whatnot. But I think, you know, that's peachy. And on the other side, you have something different, like, for example, you know, maybe some kind of a port here, right, for something, right? So, you know, run a port on this side, and you're good to go. Awesome. I think we're good. We could run a chamfer on this edge here. So click Alt, click here, and let's just run it on loop select. There we go. And we could run a chamfer here, like a slight one. I think it's going to create a nice, you know, sort of like a structural detail. But this should be followed, obviously, here, right? So we need to run this chamfer here as well, which will not work. Proceed on the clamp it. And I tell you why it will not work, because it's going to be pulling all these. So you see, what you need to do is you need to unroll this bevel menu and uncheck this loop slide, because loop slide, what it will do will slide these two connecting loops, which, by the way, there's an awful connection here of this boolean to the edge of this structure. It probably should be running something like this here, be much better, you know what I mean, and nuke this edge, because this edge is going to cause problems. The same here, the connection should be much cleaner, perpendicular to the direction of the bevel, right, or direction of the cut, and it's going to be better. Just Alt X, so yes, peachy. And I get additional highlight here on the edge, which is going to add a bit of, you know, a bit of fun. Now here on the top, we could have another element like this, press X, right? And this could be some kind of like a, you know, let me just lower the bevel here. Some kind of like a sci-fi, sorry, Wi-Fi device or whatnot. We could move this to the front, so you see it doesn't interfere with this topology here. Always have to look at the topology, because, you know, don't fight topology, work with topology, right? So you want to place it in between again, see that? If you place it in here, you're going to be interfering with edges, but place it here, you're going to be fine. You can also, you know, run some securing loops in here if you want to, so you could just, you know, either go with a knife, or you could just do it with hard ups and just simply press K and run a knife through this, and it's gonna, well, you need to select the mesh, but it's going to create these kind of like a, you know, securing loops around your mesh here and isolate this entire, you know, structure here, right? So let's just you know, remove that, and then we could have some fun with it. So we could, you know, what we could do, we could, for example, let me just apply this. So operations multiply, put a cursor on top of this edge, so Shift S and to edge, not the origin point, the cursor. There we go. And then what we can do is change pivot to cursor, right? And we could you know, grab this entire face, right? And then let me just change it to global, sorry, and cursor here. That's what I want to do. And rotate it around, you know, around the cursor. So you can just rotate it downwards like that and create this kind of like interesting, you know, shape like that. But I think, you know, flat one like this is going to be fun. Where is it? Why has it disappeared on me now? There we go. Let me move this back to geometry, the origin point. Another thing you could do is you could make it a little bit smaller, so individual origins, and just, you know, scale it in like that. And it's going to be sort of like sitting inside of the monitor, which is also cool, indicating there is something over there. And, you know, we could lower the bevel on that, right? And, you know, create some kind of like, I don't know, you know, cut here. That's going to be, you know, indicating some kind of like a, you know, Wi-Fi device or whatnot, you know. Press B here, right, for bevel, and X, and boom, right, something like that. And this could be like a light, whatever, indicating that the signal is on, right? And you get this kind of a cool, you know, very simple, you know, terminal that's sort of following the idea that, you know, that ChatGPT came up with, and you can very easily create these. That's why I can't really mirror this cut. I need to mirror the cutter. So select the cutter, shift, select this one, Alt X, and mirror the cutter, because if I mirror the shape, I'm gonna be mirroring this, which I don't want, because I want to have a asymmetrical design, which is going to be much more interesting, you know, in terms of aesthetics, right? So yeah, there we go. You could add some additional sci-fi elements here by, you know, cutting the screen like that, just for fun. It's going to be looking a bit more sci-fi, you know, all these tiny cuts, they add a lot to it, right? And there you go. We're good to go. On the back, you could do something as well, and I can't be bothered, but you know, we could add some, for example, some vents here, so we could just, you know, run a simple opening here like this, right? Press X, and this could also be, you know, asymmetrical, right? So if you want it symmetrical, then let's recover this. So have a scroll, select the cutter, and mirror this across the shape, right? It's going to be symmetrical. So now if you apply this, some operations multiply, right, you're going to have a, you know, symmetrical cut. And then what you can do is you can create vents. So you could run a vent here like that, right? Move it in, and then lower the bevel because it's a little bit too crazy, right? Make it a bit more, you know, mechanical. Move this cutter outwards, so move it in here, and then rotate it like this, right? And then if you move it in and you array this, it's going to be arrayed at an angle. So X and array it down, right? So you need to apply the rotation. So Control A, apply rotation, and then array it down X. And, you know, or if you don't want to apply rotation, you can do, what you can do is you can first create an array and then rotate it in edit mode. So let me show you. If you don't want to apply rotation, right? So I'm going to do it again. So let's cut this, right? Like that, shift click, then array it down, right? So X and array it down, right? Like that. And then, let me just move it. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cut here like this. Select that cut. This nasty shading is caused by Boolean connections. There you go, sorted. And then, you know, F scroll and then watch. If I grab the first one and rotate it on X, you see that all of them going to rotate, and then I'm going to just simply move it outside like this. And I got a, you know, I got a rotated array going down like that. And these cuts could be mirrored across this shape, and this could be actually moved outside like that, you know. So you got this kind of like a, you know, outer part here. We could even bevel this as well. I mean, chamfer, sorry. So click, alt click, and chamfer. So it's going to be, you know, sort of fitting here really nicely. And there you go. There's your terminal, and I think we're good to go. The bottom could be also chamfered. So let's, you know, multiply this, and we could just run a chamfer here. So click, alt click, and chamfer this. And again, you need to pay attention to the loops. You see there's some beef here, so maybe loop slide's gonna work better in here. In this case it didn't. We got these two edges kind of, I know, competing against one another, so let's just combine them, and I think it's gonna be okay. So shift 1, then alt X to the other side with a mesh machine, click, alt click, chamfer, and Bob's your uncle, and then there's your chamfer. So now you got the same kind of a lip here as on the top, so the design stay consistent, yeah. And I think it's a really cool terminal. Now we got this thing going on here because there's a cut, but again it's going through, we mirrored it, right? So it's easy to fix. You simply grab this one and you know, Control plus, and then you press Shift 1 with machine tools, and then 3 to clean it. Or you can just remove this one with Control X and you're done. And I mean, you don't need this edge at all, so you can dissolve it, easy peasy. So like working with add-ons is so easy, so fast, that, you know, you're not scared to make mistakes. So, you know, these cutters too, let me just ever scroll them. I want to mirror them to the other side. So boom, right? You don't mirror the shape, you mirror the cutters, because if you mirror the shape, you're going to be, you know, mirroring this cut here, which we don't want to mirror, right? In fact, this one too could be chamfered, so you're going to be seeing that, you know, this kind of like an inlet here a little bit better. And same situation here, you see we need to turn off loop slide so you don't have this nasty a bevel pull over there. So yeah, there you go. And I think we're good to go. I'm missing anything? I think we're good. I think we're good. Cool. All right, well, that's it. And, you know, that's how easy it is to design this. And then obviously you can add some decals on top of it, you know, some stickers, whatnot. And it's going to look really cool. But I think the modeling part is done. If you would like to see how to texture it, how would I go about texturing it, how would I go about rendering this, let me know in comments, and you know, I might run a video on that. Easy, no worries. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys. That's it for this video. And again, if you want to learn how to have fun in Blender and how to be really quick and witty with your designs and create stuff like this with ease, or even something way more complicated, just grab our courses because they're fantastic. And you should start with Accelerator because that's where everything begins. That's where your journey begins, and that's where you're going to learn the basics, and the basics are essential because without foundations you cannot build up. You know, there's nothing to build on, right? So get that because you'll learn the tools, the menus, everything that you need in order to start, and you're gonna be able to do it in less than 2 weeks by devoting, you know, no more than 30 minutes a day. That's how little you need in order to master the basics of Blender, especially for hard surface. So go ahead, click the link in the video description. Like I said, if you do, you're gonna get 50% off. But if you're more advanced and you want to learn how to use add-ons, you need, you know, you have the basic knowledge of Blender and understanding of all these tools and menus, then really grab the ultimate guide to hard ups and box cutter, because this course will open you a whole new avenue of holy shit in Blender basically, because you're gonna be modeling way faster, way more intuitively, and you're gonna have way more fun. These add-ons and this course will save you a ton of time, therefore a ton of money. So it's a very good value for money. So if you're more advanced and you want to learn how to use hard ups and box cutter on a way deeper level, then grab the course. The link is also in the video description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.